Okay, welcome to Photoshop, and today we're going to take a look at the history palette. Most people will know that the history palette allows you to go back in time as you work on an image, but there's a catch. You can only go back as many states as you set inside the Photoshop preferences. There's also a couple little extra hidden functions that most people don't know about inside of the history palette. So today we're going to take a look at the history palette and some of those hidden functions. Now the history palette is located right here on my computer. If it was not available, you would go up to Window, drop down and select history, and that would bring up the history palette. The other thing we're going to need here is the layers palette. So I have this image, and let's say I like this image, but maybe I want to make it a black and white image. So what we're going to do is come down here. We'll quickly just create a little black and white image. I'll make a little adjustment. And just like that, we have saved a black and white adjustment. Now the way the history palette works is it lets you go back in time. Now, if this was a normal image, it only allows you to go back in time a specific number of states. Those states are set inside the Photoshop preferences. So to find out how many history states you have available, you're going to go up to Photoshop, down to Preferences, and then down to Performance. Now on mine, I have it set at 50 states. Your cache is where those states are saved inside of Photoshop. This is only temporary, so if you save your image and close it, you lose those history states. They're only available when you are working on the image. Now you can change this. You could make it 20, 30, 40, 8 million if you wanted. It won't let you save it at 8 million, but as many as you want, you can save. It kind of depends on the type of work, on how many history states. So if you're a graphic designer and you work on many layers, you might want to increase this. If you're a journalist, you probably don't even need 50 states. That's where you set your history states for your history palette. Now, another cool thing that you can do is you can make a snapshot as you are working. So like, let's say that I like this. A snapshot can be used to go back in time, but it can also be used to compare without turning a layer on and off. Down here in the very bottom corner is a little camera, and that will create a new snapshot. And when I click that, you can see it created a little snapshot. So I could call this BW for black and white. And now I can go color. And then if I want to see my black and white, I can click on my black and white. So snapshots let you go back in time to a specific period, but they also instantly let you see where you were at that moment. We're going to go ahead and turn off this black and white layer, and we are going to make a different type of adjustment layer. So we will come in here and let's do selective color adjustment. And we're just going to mess around with this color to make it look however we want. Make it purplish. That looks pretty good. Go up to red. Change the red around a little bit. Okay. Let's say that's a cool adjustment and that we like that and we want to keep that one. Once again, we can go back to our history palette. I can create a new snapshot, and that way it makes it really easy for me to toggle through different states to compare to see what they look like. Now, you could easily go up to your layers and turn things on and off, but it's going to take more time to turn a layer on, turn a layer off than it is to create a snapshot. But just remember, your snapshots are only available when you are working on the image. After you close this out, this is a cache item and it will be gone. We will come out here and we will make a new adjustment. So we're going to go to gradient map, come up here to gradient maps, and we'll just select any random gradient map that we think looks okay. We'll say that that looks good. We're going to go back to layers and back to history. I'm going to create a new snapshot, and just like that snapshot, it allows me to kind of toggle through and go back in time. Now, usually as you're doing this, working inside your history, you're going to have more layers in between these layers. Right now, they're really close together, but a lot of times as you're working on an image, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, but let me develop it farther and add some more layers to it. to see what it's going to look like. That's also when the snapshots are also available. They let you go back in time. So if you do actually accidentally exceed those 50 spots and you can't get to back to black and white just by going through your history, you can actually click on the snapshot and it will take you back in time. If you do work with a lot and you exceed those and black and white wasn't available in your history anymore, clicking on your snapshot will actually take you back to that moment in time, so you won't lose that state. Now, the last thing we're going to do is we'll click on this history state just because we say we like it. And then down here, there's a little thing. This is your stamped visible. And this is that weird command key, which is Command Option Shift E on a Mac or Control Option Shift E on a PC. What this does is create a new layer with these settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and you can see right here, it's made us a snapshot. And both of these are exactly the same. So this created an image from this at that time. So if I go to black and white, I click that again, it's going to make a new layer from that black and white layer. So now I have easily 3 different images. What this would do would allow you to save out these 3 different versions of the image without having to turn anything on and off. It's a personal preference as you're working, but that's what it does. It creates a snapshot of how that image looked at that time as a new document, and it will allow you to save it out. So hopefully that's been helpful. You learned a little bit more about the history palette inside of Adobe Photoshop. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave those below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.